Hi, welcome. My name is Dale McCluskey. On this video, again, talking about tools. Again, on a previous video, I talked about the context of a pinch collar, what's referred to as a prong collar, and why that tool you have to be aware in terms of how you're building the picture, how it is that dogs can continue to hold control through how tools are used, even though you might have a better physical walk. When the device is off the dog, or you're not using the device, how the dog can continue to hold control in the relationship. So it's really understanding from the very beginning, getting the process right. Again, the system of training advocates a process at an interaction-based level. It's very specific in doing that. It makes sense. It's common sense. Okay, it's just like parenting, investing in, advocating, interacting in specific ways with a child. It's no different. And so the dog is motivated, okay? That's where the context of a motivated dog is motivated to come into agreement, okay, with the process, okay? So it's just thinking different, but it makes sense when you think about it. Now, another tool I'm going to talk about on this video, because again, people will say, well, Dale, this system training really focuses on just the flat, straight collar, but sometimes that throws people off because they're like, well, how? That seems impossible. With some dogs that are holding a lot of control, very bigger dogs can pull you down onto the street, cause people to get injured. And so what's the best tool to use in that case? What's the best go-between tool, so to speak? Instead of just trying to switch right over to a flat collar, what's the best tool to use? And the best tool, my recommendation, best tool to use as a go-between is what's called a choke chain. Now, again, you hear that word choke, right? It's assumed that you're using undue force on the dog. That's not how this tool is used through this system, okay? It's all about what's reasonable in terms of influence, okay? How the tool is used, but again, how the method itself, how it covers off and intersects in such a way that a dog is kind of going to come into agreement, okay, with how influence intersects these interactions. So the tools themselves take on different meaning because the system of training is proactive, okay, in terms of being ahead of the curve of the dog's mind, in terms of understanding that the dog's already holding a level of control, so you're engaging the process differently in a good way, okay? So here in this situation, okay, in terms of some dogs that are holding a lot of control, can be very difficult to interact with, okay? They're really trying to move out in front, they're trying to pull you down. And so what I would recommend is a tool, okay? Now here's the thing is as you're starting to think different, and this is where even using a pinch collar, when I'm helping people, I don't want to throw people off too quickly. Like people have a certain way of thinking, they have a certain comfort level, they have a certain level of, say, control over the dog initially, even though the dog has control in the relationship, they use tools a certain way. So even using a prong or pinch collar, I'll tell people that's okay initially, but you want to start to change how you think, okay? It's all about fading people in the right way. And so, as the process begins to move forward, okay, you want to start to switch people over to certain tools because it's these interactions that create change, okay? So, but again, in the meantime, if you want a tool that's going to be a go-between tool as you begin to create relationship change, and you need a little bit more leverage, I call it, you want to have a little more leverage to prevent a dog from pulling you down, then what's called the choke chain, okay, is the best option, okay? But again, understand it's how it's used. It's used in such a way that you're not ramming on the dog and jerking on the dog, okay? It takes more of a form of a nudge. At times, just gaining leverage and control so you can start to create change through how influence is intersecting the method, okay? And start to change the perception of the dog. It's about the dog coming into agreement because it's about your technique, being smooth, being fluid, you're in control, and the integrity of the method is such that a dog is going to be accepting, okay, of how you're using certain tools, certain ways, okay? So you're not waiting for the dog to, hit a tipping point, okay? Again, you're doing it in such a way that just as the dog begins to invest, again, I encourage you to watch my videos to understand what that represents in terms of control, just how the tools are used in such a way, in a way that the dog is going to be accepting. But again, both tools can stay on the dog at the same time. So switching over to a flat collar, the choke chain, okay, can be on the dog at the same time, but you want to keep it up higher on the neck as you're using it. It allows you to have a little bit more leverage with the dog, with certain dogs. But again, definitely need control. It's all about control, but while change is happening. So this system of training, the method is such that it both reveals and it changes. That's the good news. You're not just not just in a management situation where you're controlling a problem anymore until something bad happens. Okay, so the tools actually fade out. So the thing is, the tools are a means to an end. Okay, they're not a crutch. They're not used. So it's using call it a prong collar. People call it a pinch collar. You know, you're not creating a better physical position. The dog is still holding control. There's the issue with device awareness. Everything fades out, okay, because it's all about getting the process right first. Then the tools, okay, their role becomes, makes sense. It aligns. It makes sense to the dog. It makes sense to the human, and change happens. So again, just want to mention the go-between tool is what I use is a choke chain, but again, it's used just as a kind of go-between tool. It's used as a temporary measure, okay, to gain leverage as you begin to change how you think. So thanks for watching.